Wow.
Some of you have schizophrenia. It's not like you.
Yeah.
Some people think it's gift of prophecy, but it's not a gift of prophecy.
It's true.
Or some people are using gifts as a coping mechanism to a bad mental health state. I know there's a girl, she actually had a
facade.
No, there's a girl, she actually that was in this place, she actually had a mental health disorder and
covered it under prophecy. I've seen something like that before.
And it was like, where do you draw the line here? Because you actually have and obviously on one part, yes, everybody can hear the voice of God, we believe in the gifts and helping people. It's like, where do we draw the line? Because she had recently been admitted somewhere. She wasn't taking her medications like she was supposed to, because she said God told her not to. And then she was having spurts of attacks. I mean, she did something that's even brazen. It's like, you're a prophet and you just did this. I thought she did on the mic, because it was like, you weren't taking your medications because.
Hello guys, welcome to another episode on LBH.
Cool.
I'm here with
Joseph Njuru.
Tyrone Junior.
Thank you guys for joining.
What's your name?
My name is Ngoni. No, Ngoni.
Love that.
And a topic on the table, guys. Really want to get your views concerning overcoming mental health. Mental health issues. Per se, depression, suicide. It's something that's really been taking a lot of people in our generation in a chokehold. And, just from a biblical perspective, how do you confront that? And, how do you sort of know when you're coming to that point where, it's sort of going wayward and you're sort of losing the maintenance of your peace and your mental state is no longer in a good place. I want to read a scripture for us. And it's in Proverbs. One moment, just loading it. Yes, Proverbs 10, verse number 7. Glory to God.
Shut up.
And it says in Proverbs 10, verse 7, the memory of the just is blessed, but the name of the wicked shall rot. And I wanted to put key emphasis on the part which says the memory of the just is blessed. The memory, the mind of anyone who is just in Christ, it is a blessed place. Yeah. And so I feel so uncomfortable, and I know that there's a lack of revelation when I see believers who are in states of depression. And they start to call it my depression, my anxiety, just going through my mental health. Of course, we have mental health, but I mean, the expression, my depression, and it's okay to feel this way. At the end of the day, I'm human. And all of these sort of statements and phrases are not necessarily kingdom. How do we rise beyond that? And, what would you advise an individual that thinks in such a way?
Well, I think let's just preface by saying that we don't disagree that somebody can be depressed.
Absolutely.
We don't disagree that somebody can be suicidal and all of these things. And so please take this conversation that we're having, don't hear what we're saying and don't hear what we're not saying. But I think one thing I've seen in my life is when Christ is my priority, everything in my life tends to fall in order.
That's good.
Everything. The minute he isn't, everything goes wrong. And it's like, I've learned if I actually want stability in every aspect of my life, I keep him priority.
That's good.
And we live in a culture where work tends to be our priority. Our jobs are keeping up with bills and keeping up with payments. And so what happens is when those things become our priority, we actually lose touch with the Prince of Peace. And then your job causes you more stress, but that's what you've chosen to prioritize. Yeah. So you find the reason why a lot of people tend to get overwhelmed by a lot of things and stress like that is simply because that thing that they've made their priority is actually the source of their stress. So when Jesus becomes my priority, I've noticed he becomes the source of joy, he becomes the source of peace. And so I'd say that's one aspect. The second aspect is going on your point where people say, at the end of the day, I'm only human and all of these things, those ideologies give license to the enemy to use your mind as a playground. In essence, you're basically saying, well,
It's
no
normal.
matter what I do, it's normal. This is how I am. This is how I'm wired. And so the main issue is, I think people just don't really understand the gospel. I think a lot of times we preach the gospel from the aspect of what Christ has done, but we don't teach it from the aspect of what you've been saved from. Because if you don't know what you were saved from, you don't know what you've been saved into. So we have a lot of people that, because they don't know what they've been saved from, they're still bound by some things in their mind because they haven't understood the reality of what the cross just did for you.
Yeah.
The cross, part of what I believe the cross did for me is that it restored me back to Genesis 1:26, restored me back into the image, and restored me back into the likeness of God. So the moment I become born again, I'm actually not quote unquote just a human anymore. I'm a God kind human being. I'm made in the image of God. And so anything that doesn't really resonate with Christ shouldn't start resonating with me, because that's what I was saved from, not looking like him, not being like him, into being like him. Mental health is real. Do not get me wrong, but I think as a believer, we can combat it by simply understanding our priorities and understanding what Christ has done, and actually not allowing ourselves to become victims to these things. Yes, we are all human. There's one thing somebody told me, and was, you can feel it, but doesn't mean you should stay there.
That's good.
You see, in the shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. He felt an emotion, but he didn't stay in that emotion. He still proceeded and healed Lazarus and rose Lazarus from the dead. And it's like the other people that they feel these emotions and they allow it to put them in a prison cell, and they allow it to put them in bondage. And I'm not saying don't feel the emotion. Feel the emotion. We have this saying in our church where it's feel the fear but do it anyway.
That's
And
good.
if we adopt that kind of mentality with sometimes our states of mental health when we find ourselves in a low place, I really feel like we can change the narrative and not become victim to something that the enemy is trying to throw at us. People won't like this, but the truth is mental health is a spiritual thing.
It is.
It's an attack from the enemy, just like sickness. We call it a spiritual thing. It's an attack from the enemy. And the moment we begin to see it as it's normal, I'm just human, we're already playing. We've already entered the battlefield and we're losing the battle, because mental health is attacking you from a spiritual aspect, and you're trying to give it grace by saying it's a human thing, it's a normal thing. So you've basically waved the surrender flag. There's nothing I can do about it because I'm human.
Yeah, no, the fact of the matter is mental health, like you're saying, is spiritual. And mental health being spiritual, the battlefield for most spiritual warfare is the mind. Like when we talk about spiritual warfare, it's the mind. And so whenever you see that you're struggling, maybe there's intrusive thoughts, or more so along the lines of suicidal thoughts or depression, stress, and these are the thoughts that you're having in your mind and it's clogging, it shows that there's a way, or there's a part in which the gate was open and it was infiltrated by the enemy. And so what you have to do, and I say to people that are going through, stress, or they're coming to a point where they're almost depressed, you don't want the doctors to be the first people to diagnose your depression. So you have to sit back and say, okay, if there's one gate open, which is allowing the enemy to come into this battlefield and come into my mind, what am I stressed about? You're stressed because there's the absence of a solution.
Yes.
It's either you can't understand the problem, or you don't yet have an answer. Not understanding the problem brings stress. Not having an answer also brings stress. You come to a point where you sit down and say, okay, hang on a minute, which gate is open in my mind? And if you can close that gate, from that point there, that's where taking power and authority over your mentality starts to come into place. Sometimes it's the indisciplines we have which enable our mental health to spiral out of control. You're thinking a million one things at the wrong time.
That's good.
And so it causes anxiety. You're an overthinker. Have you ever taken an introspective analysis to realize that one of my issues is I overthink quite a lot?
Yeah.
So I need to sit back and think, how can I be more rational and think more logical? Why do I always blow things out of proportion when they come into my mind? Possibly, is there a root which is deeper than my Christianity now? Is it a childhood issue? Which areas of my life do I feel uncomfortable with? Maybe what I'm confronting isn't just a spell of suicide. It might be an insecurity in my character, which traces years back to this current moment I'm having now. So, I think usually when you see people in these situations where they're going through depression and they're anxious, it has a lot to do with the gates not being closed.
Yeah.
And I like the way, you guys are touching on the my, because, one thing I realize is it's a lack of answers, but sometimes it's a lack of being able to let go. One of the greatest scriptures that we see in Jesus, walking it out, and the best way to find an answer for anything is looking at the life of Jesus. Jesus didn't go through depression, but he was in a stressed moment once in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he even got to the point where he took tears of blood. And at that moment, what did he do? He said, "But not my will, but your will."
Yeah.
You see, the issue is that people have taken it as their identity. So when you try to take it away from them, it's like there's withdrawal symptoms, and they don't understand that the best thing that they can do is lay it down at God's feet. Even though I don't have an answer,
Yeah.
you know what? It's your will, God, not my will. And I think it's also something to do with being away from the source. The scripture says in Matthew 4:4, we don't live on bread alone, but by every word that perceiveth out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And if we don't have our source, then we've been derailed from who we are, as Tyrone said from Genesis 1. We've been derailed from our image. And if we don't have our identity in the word, identity in the image, or identity from the one that leads us as a shepherd, then we will definitely 100% fall into places of depression and suicide. Not saying that these things can't happen, but we're saying that when they do happen, what do you do?
Yeah.
What people
Good.
think we're trying to say is that it can't happen. But what we're trying to say is, what's your solution when it does happen?
Yeah.
Do you run to God or do you run to man? And that's why you're saying the doctors can't be the first point of call.
I mean, I was at a point in my life where I was very stressed and I lost motivation. I didn't care what time I woke up anymore. I didn't care about managing my time correctly. And when you see those symptoms of no longer caring, no longer being bothered, and the only thing consistent in your heart is anger, frustration, those are early symptoms of depression. But it was only when I spoke to a friend, he said to me, "Oh, that's what happened to you. You should have told me, bro, you were depressed." I was like, "Was that?" He said, "You were depressed." And because I think one of the things which people don't talk about, I've noticed that, unfortunately, especially in the African culture, they don't acknowledge mental health.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
And like when we talk about emotional intelligence, this is why a lot of children who are in African backgrounds and African homes, they find it hard to relate with their parents because their parents just aren't that aware emotionally, and they're not that sensitive.
Sure.
Because they were brought up in a culture which was, this happened, mess up, fess up, deal with it.
Yeah.
You scratch your knees, wipe your knees. That's what it is. So
Yeah.
you need to be tough. Meanwhile, especially for our men, it's quite toxic because when you look at a man can smile at you on a Sunday and he's dead on the inside.
Yeah.
Facts.
Because there's no way that he's being able to find expression with his emotions, or anyone who's dealing it or taking him through a process to know that, you know what, you're a man, you're wounded. This is how you heal.
Yeah.
And this is what you need to do to start going through that journey. And so you'll find that a lot of people that come from these backgrounds, us that come from African backgrounds, it was hard for us to relate. And it was then a situation or a scenario where when we did then find a place where we could find expression, or a vulnerable place, or I call it a safe place, where you can really express yourself and how you feel, it makes us then sort of resent where we were originally.
That's true.
This is why some people no longer have relationships with their parents.
Yeah.
Because what should have been treated or handled well wasn't.
Mm.
But if you can have this intelligence and understand that, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm currently feeling this way and they don't understand it.
Yeah.
It helps so much more because instead of thinking they don't love you,
Yeah.
you can relate from the basis of they just have no understanding.
That's good. That's good.
Rather than thinking my parents don't love me.
Yeah.
And those environments can be quite hostile and unfruitful when you're stressed or depressed. Yeah.
That's true. And it goes back to the thing of in this day and age we have a mentality of kind of forgetting how to remember where we've come from, so that when somebody brings it up, like, because our parents probably went through the same things when they were younger, but they forgot that it took a journey for them to get to where they were.
Yeah.
And so we forget to journey with people,
Yeah.
especially in a generation, we always hear it, micro generation, it wants stuff instantly, but they're not able to journey with people. And I would hope that in our generation we're able to change it and see believers that maybe are depressed or feel stressed and journey with them out. And this is why we're even talking about this, because we want you to understand that there is a way out.
Yeah.
But the first step is to realize that it's not your depression,
Yeah.
it's not your identity. But I got a question. How do you find the right people to speak about it? Because especially in a generation where, let's like, we're very a comedic generation. So when it comes to stuff like real
Yeah,
stuff,
we don't
like
take it seriously.
sometimes, bro, I'll be real. I'll be the first to say it. I've got some dark humor. So when you tell me some stuff, I might have to think twice before I laugh. Like, no, like I might laugh first,
Yeah.
and then I might like get serious after.
Okay.
Like it's a toxic trait of mine. Sorry, but like it's. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you could say that, oh, you fell down the stairs, and I will laugh, and then you tell me, oh, I broke my leg, and like I need surgery. Then that's when I'll be like, oh, well, sorry, like. So yeah, like
See,
how
you
do
fell.
no, literally you fell like, so how do you find
Yeah.
the right people?
I think that's a good question, especially personal for my point as well, like about having priorities. There's a lack of that.
Yeah,
And I think that question is a broader, generic question.
no, literally.
Who can I go to?
Facts.
Elijah was in a place like that because he felt
Yeah.
like he was alone.
Yeah, facts.
God was like, no, I got 7,000 others who haven't bowed their knees.
Yeah.
And so, how do you find or how do you know the right people? I think it takes time, definitely.
Yeah.
Some people don't have family
Yeah.
that they
True.
can go to. I think you just have to find people with the right intentions. People that are genuinely there for you and not what you can do.
Yeah.
And I think on the back of that, we live in a time where Joseph might say, if I tell Ngoni something,
Yeah.
am I going to be less of the man of
Man,
God
Yeah. No,
that
facts.
I am?
It's
And
true.
so we try to
Yeah.
build and keep up some facade. I think you have to find some people where you don't like. There's no facade in their
Yeah.
eyes.
No,
Like there's
facts.
no image of you. Like
Yeah.
you're one person to them.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And it's hard to find that generally because we live in a time where it's like everybody one day will do you dirty and one day
Facts.
will hear your things and then go tell somebody else. I imagine what you tell them.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And so I would say pray
Facts.
that God lead me to the right thing. But what I'd also say is discernment is key.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And discernment is not, what's the word to describe it? Discernment is not some spooky, misty voice telling you, go there.
Yeah. No, literally.
Go.
Yeah.
Discernment is a feeling. How
Facts.
do you feel when you're around certain people?
Let's try it.
How do you feel when I'm around you? And you have to really put that into practice
Yeah.
because stuff like opening up can bless you or curse you.
Break you. No,
It
facts.
can bless you or
Yeah.
break you, and it's not something to be joked with. So I think you just generally have to be intentional with people, pray to God to direct the right people, to you, and use discernment to know what this person's intentions are for you.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think it's definitely a hard one, and that's why a lot of people are in this cave more because
Yeah.
nobody knows who they can go to. And can I just say, like sometimes, and I know people might not want to hear this, sometimes you might have to take the risk,
You do.
and it could affect you in the long run, but you would have never have known if you didn't
Yeah.
you didn't take the risk.
Yeah.
Or you find the wrong person, or you find the person that's in your situation. This is what normally happens. You find the person that's depressed as well. You become
You
depressed.
become a
together.
depressed club.
And then
Yeah,
what you
no,
do
it's
is
true.
you go out together. You
She's
do.
bleeding.
Yeah,
She
bleeding.
infects you.
You-
You're bleeding.
Yeah,
then,
It's
it's
just
then
true.
you
contagious
date
party.
them, then you engage them, then you marry them.
Yeah.
That's actually what happens.
That's what happens.
People are drawn to
To
people that are similar to them. I think in those
Yeah.
moments, that's another point.
Literally, yeah.
Find somebody that's the opposite.
The opposite
It's so
that will
true.
pull you out of it, because the moment you try leave your depressed state,
They'll bring you back.
Yeah.
they'll be like, no, we're depressed together.
You know, what you're saying is right. I think, I saw a meme before, like some sort of there's like quotes which they post, and it said, "I'm broken, you're broken, let's fix each other." And I'm like, no, that's
No,
the wrong
that's
idea.
The
wrong.
wrong guy. That's
You
the
don't
wrong
use
You
a
need something that
broken
makes you
wrench.
feel
Yeah,
dumb and
to
broke.
fix a broken tire. Like, it doesn't
Facts.
work. I mean, a puncture tire.
Yeah,
The
literally.
point is, I think one of the ways of finding those people that can help you when you're in a place of depression, or you're not in a mentally stable state. I think the first thing is, when you look at Absalom, the son of David,
Yeah.
and how he plotted on betraying his father and killing him. One thing you notice is David had wise counsel with Ahithophel,
Yeah.
and then he went to go and serve for Absalom. And David prayed a prayer and asked God and said, "Make the counsel of Ahithophel to become unwise."
Yeah.
But he was known to be someone that gives wise counsel.
Mm.
But because Absalom didn't carry out a thorough due diligence,
Yeah.
the counsel he was given by Ahithophel led to his death. And so I say this to say, you need to be close enough to understand and hear the counsel that comes from that individual.
Yeah. That's true.
Because you'll find that there are people who may be esteemed to have good counsel, quote unquote, they're a pastor.
Yeah.
But the pastor only knows how to cast out, not counsel out.
Wow.
The pastor's good at casting out,
Yeah.
but they're not good at counseling out.
Yeah.
And so you might feel as though, because of the title and you esteem the individual, the counsel is wise.
Yeah.
Be around long enough to know, how do you feel? It's a progressive track record to know from where I started from.
Yeah.
After 4 weeks.
Where am I now?
In talking to this person, where am I mentally? There are some people, you ask them a question and you feel like, why did I even why did I do the phone call?
Yeah, no, literally.
You left me with more questions than I had before I left.
Or like, how do you...
Well, anyway, there are some people, it's like, what they're saying is right, but I don't feel good.
But it's not
God.
God.
No, literally.
It could be a good thing, but not a God thing.
Yeah.
Not good.
And I would say as well, like, find people that won't tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
No, yeah, that's good.
We have a people, and this is why we tend to stay in places, because people don't want to be told what they need to hear.
Yeah.
They're looking for somebody that's going to tell them what they want to hear.
That's good.
And that's why they form friendships with people that are in the same boat as them. Because now they're talking about, how did we get here? Oh, you did that too. And I did that too.
Literally.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, no, you need somebody that's going to tell you what you need to hear in love, and in accountability.
Sometimes
to
it needs
keep
to
you
hurt.
Yeah,
it needs to pain you.
And that's what I'm saying, because people don't want to hear. They don't want the pain.
They want
They want someone to tell them it's okay.
They love saying pain to power. Ooh, power. But it's like,
it's true.
They don't understand the pain.
It's one of those ones where, in this generation, I said it before, I'll just say it again. In as much as we definitely need to accommodate the wounded soldiers and those that are going through it mentally and help them, I don't agree with sissified Christianity.
Yeah, no facts.
Heal. But there's a point where you have to then ask the question, am I the problem?
Yeah.
Which most people don't do.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for your hurt, but I'm not responsible for your healing.
Yeah, that's good.
When should I forgive? The Bible tells us we need to forgive in a day. 77 times. You forgive them before the sun goes down.
No facts.
Now, I'm supposed to forgive them in a day. That doesn't mean I'm supposed to heal in the day.
That's good. That's good.
So you might forgive them in that day. It doesn't mean the healing's going to happen in that day. But if the healing takes 10 years, that's on you. I was having this conversation, and people aren't ready for this. But I was talking to
Say
someone
it,
about
Papa.
this, and it was so true. I'm gonna say it. There's a point you come to in Christ,
Yeah.
where even grieving, you're only allowed to do it for so long.
Oh,
No, like
look
literally,
at Dunson.
yeah, like you can grieve that you lost your and people say, but he doesn't know how it feels. I've lost a parent.
No, literally, yeah,
You can.
yes,
I've
yes,
lost.
literally, yes,
I've
yes.
lost grandma, granddad.
Yeah.
I've lost,
No, yeah.
uncle, auntie. I've lost family members. The point
yeah,
is, you can only grieve for so long,
yeah,
and the reason is because that healing process is also accounted to you as stewardship.
yeah. That's good.
Don't stay in the pit for so long.
That's
That's
good.
why Jesus said, "Let the dead bury the dead."
Yeah,
Because what's happening is they're just going home.
yeah,
They haven't left.
They haven't left.
And so it's for you to finish your course.
Yeah,
If you were supposed to pioneer a ministry in 2024 and you went into an 8-year depression, well, you've missed a window.
It's facts.
And sometimes God will allow you to heal on the go.
On the go.
Yeah.
Facts.
Or
It's
to
true.
grieve on the go.
It's
And it
facts.
goes back to the point where it's like, feel it, but don't stay there.
Stay
Don't
there.
keep there. Jesus wept, but he still rose Lazarus from the dead. And sometimes it's like, yeah, there's hurt and yeah, there's pain. But it's like, okay, God, as you heal me, I'm still going to be obedient to everything you've called me to. And that's, I feel like that's the part of Christianity that we rarely see. We rarely talk about the fact that where it's like you're hurt, you're wounded, and it's like there's still a mission, there's still an assignment ahead. But westernized culture has told you no,
take time out.
I gotta put me
Which
first.
can be relevant.
Which can be relevant,
But
but
not
not
always
but not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta put God first, because putting God first is putting you first.
Yeah, facts. No, 100%, because he will look after you. And just as we round up, a question that came to mind is what a lot of people, I've been asked before is, or been said, a statement that's been said is, but they had a different life to me. They had 2 parents, or they had a rich family. They had this, they had that. And a scripture that or a story that I want to tell you is that about the parable of the talents. Not all of them were given equal talent.
Yeah.
We all started this life at a different stage, but we were all given one thing in common, and it was a currency called life. And what we do with that life is up to us. We are the stewards of our life, but who you give to steward it is your choice. You can give it to the devil, you can give it to your to God, or you can give it to New Age, whatever you want to do. But the point of me saying this is that it may seem like it's unfair, but it was never unfair. It's the fact that we've all actually been given the same thing, and you can multiply 5 to 5,000, and somebody can multiply 10 to 500. But it's up to you what you do with your life, and so that's it from me.
That's awesome.
That's a great ending.
Well, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, see you next time.
Please subscribe.